Good morning. Today's lesson is on the three-dimensional Cartesian coordinate system. So we're changing over from our two-dimensional stuff that we did with our circles, ellipses, parabolas, and hyperbolas to moving to 3 dimensions. So when drawing in 3 dimensions, it's hard. So what you need to do is if you look on the bottom here, you can see the X and the Y axis. The x-axis is the one that's actually kind of coming out towards you. So we can see here, this is our x-axis coming out towards us. Our y-axis is over here. Okay, and then up and down, you'll see you have your z-axis, which is your third dimension. So your normal coordinate plane is in the bottom, if you want to think of it that way. Now, know that this would continue on. That would be your negative x-axis. And if we continued on back here, that would be your negative x-axis. This would be your negative y-axis. So when you're plotting points, say I wanted to plot the point 1, 2, 3. So really this is plotting x, y, and z. You would go out 1 on your x, then you would go 2 on your y. So if you think of this, you're creating a box here, but then you have to go up 3 on your z. So 1, 2, 3. So when you do that, you're actually creating a cube, which is kind of what you see here is created in blue. So we would create something that looks like this. And our point that we are looking for, our 1, 2, 3, would actually be this point on the corner here. So drawing them is usually better if you draw this cube and you plot your point. So when we're talking about key things that we need to know, your coordinate axis is labeled with X, Y, and Z. Okay. Your X is the one that's coming out at you. The one going to the right is your Y, and the one going up is going to be your Z. Your points will be in an ordered triple. They will be X, Y, Z. So you have different planes. You have the XY plane, which is the one at the bottom. You have your XZ plane, is just if you're looking at the X-axis and the Z-axis. And then you have your YZ plane as well. Now, to get these different planes, you're plugging in 0 for the value of the plane that you don't want. So for instance, in the XY plane, our Z value would be 0 because we're not going into that Z. We're actually just in those 2 dimensions. The origin, just like 0, 0 is the origin of our 2-dimensional graph, 0, 0, 0 would be. Now, you have what's called octants instead of quadrants because there are 8 of them. So what you're going to be talking about is really we're going 3 dimensions. So we don't necessarily have a circle now, we have a sphere. And so what you will notice, you still have a center point. You have a center of your sphere and you have a radius of that sphere. So this looks very similar to the equation of a circle. And so when you look at that, we have x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared plus z minus l quantity squared equals r squared. So very similar. If we have a point, -8, -2, 1 with a radius of 4 square root of 3, notice that you are plugging them in just like we plugged in to an equation of a circle. Square that radius to get your 48. How do you graph this? You probably are not going to graph a sphere. You might use a graphing utility on the computer or something to graph it for you. It's very difficult to draw something that's 3-dimensional on a 2-dimensional piece of paper. So going back to 2-dimensionals, what can we do? We know how to find the distance between 2 points. We also know how to find the midpoint. So these equations actually flow right into our equations for our 3-dimensional. So when you're dealing with distance, say you're given 2 points, P and Q, and you have them in 3 dimensions. Notice we just added on this one piece. So it's the square root of the difference between the x's squared plus the difference between the y squared plus the difference between the z squared. Not much different than our two-dimensional formula. Midpoint, very similar as well. So you're just going to add the x values, divide by 2, add your y's, divide by 2, and add your z's and divide by 2. So that kind of gives you a start in your coordinates. The next lesson will be leading into vectors. If you have any questions, please make sure you contact me. Have a great day.